how I automate my 27 faceless YouTube channel, the exact hidden blueprint. Now guys, this is the exact blueprint as to how I personally automate all 27 of my faceless channels on complete autopilot that print me passive income every single day. Now guys, just so you know I'm serious, here are a few of my channels and the revenue on them. And here we go guys, if I head over to YouTube/account where we kind of have all of our channels all in one place under the same email, if I go ahead and scroll, you guys can see just how many channels we have under this one brand account. And FYI, we have multiple of these, all with different companies, different LLCs being set up at the moment. And of course, if I go onto one of these many channels and I filter it by lifetime, of course, we started this channel back in 2020, I believe. In that time, it's done $579,000 in revenue. Doesn't do anywhere near as much nowadays. It's kind of at a couple $1,000s a month. But of course, at its peak, it was absolutely printing. And guys, once again, I don't do that to flex. I just kind of do it to show a little bit of validity with who I am as a whole. And so you can kind of take what I say with a grain of salt and decide what you want to do with it. Once again, if you want to go ahead and join my public Discord server, that's discord.gg/1%. It's a completely free networking community where we all sort of connect and kind of share results. And of course, if you guys want to go ahead and book a call directly with myself, check out start.interval.co. Once again, you can book a completely free call with myself to see if we can help scale your channel. And firstly, guys, before we get into the video, this is not financial advice whatsoever. It's merely me explaining my current situation and trying to give my best advice to steer others in the right direction. But I'm going to stop yapping. Let's get straight into this massive knowledge bomb. So first thing is obviously first when it comes to automating a network like this. And honestly, there's not too many people in the YouTube space that I know of that are kind of content creators handling the amount of kind of inventory and management we do on a day-to-day basis. So how do we handle day-to-day management is probably one of the biggest questions I get. Now, obviously, when you first start a channel, this is kind of what I want to tap on first. Initially self-managed. I see a ton of people making this same mistake when they're first starting a faceless channel. They immediately come out of the gate doing like 5 or 6 or ultra long form, short form channels, and they're simply going to get burnt out because handling all of those channels and all of that kind of inventory by yourself before kind of scaling to that point is just not realistic. You're going to get burnt out, and you know, first things first, you're probably going to end up needing to hire a channel manager before you're even ready for that task. So when you first start, I would 100% kind of recommend self-managing, whether it's 1, 2, or even 3 faceless channels until you really get the hang of it and kind of understand all the processes that go into it. Because ultimately, how can you teach somebody and hire a channel manager if you yourself don't really know the operations and kind of the back end that goes into that? Now, of course, what we sort of do post-scale, I would say post-scale is whether you're at 10K a month, whether you've kind of scaled to that point where you're at 5K a month, and you really just don't want to be handling day-to-day management anymore. And that's of course where a channel manager comes into place. Now, previously on YouTube automation as a whole, before the whole AI trend and AI boom, if you wanted to hire a channel manager, they usually would have handled absolutely everything. But nowadays, of course, before they probably would have had to handle speaking to the editing team, speaking to the script writers, voice actors, absolutely everything. And it was definitely much more of a hands-on job than it is today. Because of course, today, as a channel manager, all you really need to do is feed scripts to ChatGPT. Of course, once you've got those scripts, put them into 11 Labs, get the file and send that off to the editor. So it's not so much a difficult job now as it used to be because everything can ultimately be automated through the use of AI. And really you're just hiring someone that knows the ins and outs the same way you do and essentially has your channel's best interest at heart. That is probably one of the biggest factors I see people missing. You cannot trust everybody. Being a channel manager is something that you need to kind of work towards, whether you're working with a voice actor or a script writer or kind of an editor for a very long time. Oftentimes on a lot of my channels, what we actually do is once we have an editing team, we'll actually work directly with them, and potentially in the future, some of those editors that already work on the videos are down to handle the ChatGPT part of it, the 11 Labs, and then essentially everything is completely automated. Now, once again, I would not recommend hiring a channel manager to kind of handle day-to-day management until you are at that point where you're doing 5, 10, even 20K a month. I've seen some people that still handle everything themselves, even after that point of like 35K a month because they enjoy it. But of course, if you do want to get to that point where you are scaling further past that and wanting to have multiple channels running at the same time, hiring a manager is pretty much necessary. Now, of course, the next thing we kind of have to talk about, especially with this whole AI boom, one of the biggest questions I get is, well, what jobs do you actually need in the current industry? And how do you go about getting reliable people to handle those jobs? Now, of course, all niches kind of vary, but for the most part, scriptwriters are essentially null and void. We don't need scriptwriters anymore whatsoever, in my opinion and in my field. We simply haven't really found any niches that are really needed for scriptwriters. I mean, at the moment, deep research with ChatGPT can essentially replicate any script on all of YouTube. And you've seen videos on my channel in the past kind of talking about this and going through the steps of kind of how we do this, but it is absolutely insane. Once again, with voice acting, there is no difference in using an 11 Labs super high quality professional voice, or of course, hiring a voice actor that previously was very, very expensive. Now, I'm not sure if you guys were around back in the day when we were doing YouTube automation, but hiring a voice actor previously was insanely expensive. I mean, I remember spending like $250 for a 2-hour script, and nowadays you can do that in literal seconds. That sounds better than the voice actor, and you get it immediately. So realistically, the only kind of points you need in terms of actually starting a channel is, of course, editing costs, and then of course, thumbnail design. Now, there are quite a few niches nowadays where thumbnail design isn't even necessary, and I'll show you what I mean right now. Now, for example, if you are running a channel similar to Fern or similar to kind of Internet Anarchist, then yes, you would most certainly need a thumbnail designer because there is a lot of care that goes into this type of stuff. But on the other hand, if you were working on a channel like Ancient Mysteries, that is, of course, ultra long form, you really wouldn't be needing a thumbnail designer because AI can actually replicate this style of thumbnail one for one immediately. I'll show you how exactly right now. So of course, head over to vidIQ Thumbnail Designer. Once again, guys, this is not sponsored. This software is 100% free to use. Anybody can use this for completely free. So all you would essentially do is grab one of the videos you want to copy, press copy URL, go here, press attach, reference, paste in the YouTube video of kind of the video thumbnail style you want to replicate, press continue, and kind of describe it. And it essentially makes you perfect thumbnails in that exact same style. But the point I'm kind of getting at is that you do necessarily need thumbnail designers on some specific niches. So don't think that this essentially negates the entire use of thumbnail designers. In my opinion, thumbnail designers will always be somewhat relevant in this industry, regardless of how AI takes a turn, just because there is some sort of human intervention needed. And of course, big companies and CTR is a big factor on YouTube as a whole. But of course, one thing that, in my opinion, will never go out of date for long form and short form specifically is, of course, editing. And once again, this is going to kind of funnel into my next point. How do we hire editors that we can actually trust? There has been a ton of different methods over the years, Fiverr, Creative Paradise, but what is the most optimal way and how do I personally do it? Now, I, of course, have a little bit of a trick that I've used over the years, and that is, of course, Upwork, but I'm going to walk you through my trick right now. So, of course, Upwork has essentially added their new kind of AI system to where it essentially writes your job posting for you. So all I'm going to say is I need an editor for long form YouTube channel. Now, once again, if you are doing this, I would 100% recommend giving more information. The only reason I'm kind of doing this in such a half-assed way is because I want to show you this little trick that I've learned over the years to kind of hire editing teams in a much more efficient way. Now, of course, one of the biggest problems with kind of Upwork and all these websites as a whole is the fact that you risk getting scammed. Now, what you can actually do is obviously fill out all the information of what you need on Upwork. And when you head over to the budget page, I'll show you exactly what I like to do. Now, rather than doing an hourly rate, this is what you kind of want to do, is set a fixed price maximum project budget. I usually set this to about $15, and what you'll get is a bunch of people submitting their kind of applications on Upwork as a whole, referencing your exact budget. Now, one thing you want to keep in mind, guys, is never, ever, ever use hourly rate. This is the easiest way to get gypped. You will essentially get screwed over most of the time because people will say it took them way more hours to do the job than it actually did in reality. So of course, set a fixed price, and what that will do is actually give you a bunch of job offers. Now I'm going to show you exactly how that looks. So for example, this is a SaaS or a software as a service I was getting made, and you guys can see how many job listings and people asking me and kind of submissions I had. Now, the reason why I show you this is because not only is there a trick and something that I personally use for the fixed price method, but one thing I also like to do is when you see these submissions, go ahead and check their total amount earned on Upwork. Now, what this will do is, of course, if you see somebody with $0 earned, chances are you're going to get screwed over. But if you work with people, for example, this guy, $10,000 earned, $20,000, $40,000, $400,000 earned, chances are you're not going to get screwed over. They've been on Upwork for a very, very, very long time, and they're not going to jeopardize that reputation for the sake of a thumbnail. That's kind of how I handle going about hiring team members, kind of hiring editors, and of course, hiring thumbnail designers. Now, you might be saying in one of the biggest questions I get, how do I get editing or thumbnail designers off of Upwork onto Discord or onto whatever platform so I can have direct communication? Now, there's many ways to go about this. Firstly, you can just ask them, but usually it is against Upwork's terms of service. So another thing I like to do is ask for their email. Once I get their email, I'll send them an email saying, yo, add me on Discord. Now, it's a bit unethical, but it does work and it's not against any sort of law or anything like that. So this is kind of the best way that I go about hiring an editor and kind of getting them off of Upwork and turning them into a long-term client. Now, this is arguably the most important part. Obviously, you want to handle your kind of team members and each individual channel on a Slack or Discord chat. Now, I'm going to show you exactly how I've done this over the years on my different Discord servers. And here we go. So this was a specific channel we ran back in like 2021. It was a very, very, very long time ago. But essentially what you'll do is you'll make a Discord server with whatever name of the channel you're actually running is. This one was a channel we ran a very, very long time ago. It was called Ducky OMG. This channel is massive. It has about 6.5 million subscribers back when we used to run it, but obviously it's completely died off. But this specific channel that we did used to run, essentially what we did was we made a brand new Discord server. We'd essentially invite our 3D animators, our 2D animators, our scriptwriters, and our editors. And that's how you know this was a long time ago. This was back when you actually needed scriptwriters. So of course we'd do that and we'd have a specific role. So of course, if we head over to our roles section, we would have obviously 3D animators, 2D, scriptwriters, and editors, and we'd only give them access to their specific channel. So for example, in this channel here, we'd have our 2D animator, he'd have the role, and we'd be able to talk directly with him through here. Now, one thing we used to also do in some of the channels we got going was we'd create a final channel that was essentially an open channel. So what that would mean is, let's say, for example, you had a scriptwriter. They would write the script, then they would put it in the open channel. The editor would then grab it and then of course finish it and put it in the final product channel. Now, by doing that, what you do is you essentially automate and kind of streamline the entire process all in one. And of course, I would recommend doing this for every single channel you have just to keep things organized and kind of keep the ball rolling, because I see a lot of people struggling and doing this in the most unoptimal way, just in direct messages. And while yes, it does work short term, in the long term, it's always going to end up getting you burnt out and kind of out of it. It's going to be way too unorganized and it's really not going to be the most efficient option. Now, of course, the last thing I want to talk about is weighing out equity versus payment-based options. Now, this kind of depends on your specific situation. As a whole, I never really like to work on equity. Now, what that means is, for example, if you have an editor, you don't have the money to pay them, you might say, look, I'm starting this brand new channel in this faceless niche. If you want to handle my editing, I'll give you 20% of the channel itself. And of course, that will carry over forever. I personally like payment-based options, be like, yo, I'll give you $20 a video. But of course, if you are starting out and you don't have the capital, I would definitely recommend doing the equity-based option if that is your only option. But of course, once you've got your first channel, don't continue this strategy going and going and going for every single future channel. Make sure that, let's say you're doing 5K a month on this first channel you created. Don't be a scab, don't stinge out. When you are creating new channels and kind of expanding your portfolio, in my opinion, I would recommend going with payment-based options just so you don't get spread too thin and give out unnecessary equity. And guys, once again, if you want to work directly with myself and my team, where we try and scale your channel to 7 to 10K profit every single month, go ahead and book a completely free call on start.intervault.co. It'll be linked down below. And of course, if you want to go ahead and join my public Discord server, that's discord.gg/1%. Thank you all for watching. I hope you learned something new. This was a bit more of a niche and kind of advanced tutorial, but if you did, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. I will see you all in the next one. Peace out.